The pen dragged across the page with a finality that felt more like an execution than a simple signature. I didn't flinch. I didn't ask questions. I just slid the papers back to her, caught her gaze once. Once was all I needed, then pushed my chair back and rose to my feet. She smiled, but not kindly. It was a cold, triumphant curl of her lips, cruel, almost delighted. That smirk burned its way into my memory, more lasting than anything she could have said. When I closed the door behind me, I didn't just walk out of a house. I walked away from the man she thought she could toss aside without consequence. The truck rumbled to life as I pulled out of the driveway. She stayed on the porch, arms folded, letting out a sharp little laugh that sounded like broken glass. I kept driving until the town faded into a smear of lights and concrete in the rearview mirror. I didn't look back. For 5 years, I worked myself into the ground, juggling 2 jobs, taking extra shifts, setting aside every dream I had so she could chase hers. Nursing school, late-night classes, endless training shifts. I made her coffee to keep her awake. I kissed her forehead when she cried from exhaustion. I told her she was brilliant every time she doubted herself. I was the bridge she used to cross the river. And once she made it to the other side, she never looked back, just kicked the bridge down and walked away. I vanished. Changed my name. Sold off everything. Let her have the house, the one I had built with my own sweat and hands. The day that final check cleared, it was as if I had never existed. Years passed. I lived quietly. I built a small business from scratch in a town where no one knew my past. I trained harder than I ever had, both body and mind. I read. I studied. And I watched. From a distance, I saw her life unfold online. New car. New circle of fair-weather friends. A new man. She replaced me in less than 6 months. I said nothing. I waited. Then, 10 years later, the first call came in. No name. Straight to voicemail. Then another. And another. By the time I finally silenced the phone, I had 169 missed calls. I didn't even need to listen to the voicemails to understand what she was feeling. Fear, regret, desperation. She'd found me. Somehow. That night, I sat near the window, a glass of whiskey in hand, listening as the quiet swallowed the world outside. I thought about picking up. About facing her. But no. This had to be done right. Calculated, clean, without emotion. No loose ends. The next morning, I powered up my laptop. Time to start unraveling her life, one thread at a time. It wasn't difficult. Just a few hours online, and I had everything I needed. Her new husband, a mortgage broker with a habit of bending the law in ways that were barely legal. Their house, an oversized, 2-story colonial they clearly couldn't afford. Her job, a reputable private hospital. I found the donor list she'd been clinging to with growing desperation. It was all falling into place. I spent 6 months setting the stage. Anonymous tips to the IRS about her husband's shady financial dealings. Discreet emails to the hospital board, hinting at questionable relationships between her and a few pharmaceutical reps. I even hired a private investigator to trail her professional meetings, the ones that consistently ended in hotel rooms instead of boardrooms. I didn't hurry. Every step I took was calculated, deliberate, not a move made without knowing exactly how it would all unfold. And then, when everything was perfectly in place, I hit send. The hospital launched an internal probe. The IRS locked down their accounts, preparing for a full-scale audit. Her husband's company severed ties, stripping him of his license and leaving him jobless, income gone in an instant. Their life began to unravel, slowly at first. They missed mortgage payments. Friends began to pull away. Their image, once polished and admired, began to corrode quietly from within. I watched the collapse from afar, always out of reach, never stepping in, never exposing myself. Until the day she called again. This time, I picked up. At first, nothing, just heavy silence, so dense it felt like it could suffocate. Then came her voice, quiet, wrecked. Please. I just need to talk. I leaned back in my chair, eyes fixed on the skyline, black and still. Talk. I made a mistake, she whispered. I see that now. I was selfish, blind. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I didn't. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I stayed quiet, letting the silence stretch until it shook. I miss you, she breathed. God, I miss you. Please, can we meet? Please. I pictured her, sitting alone in the wreckage of the empire she built on the back of my sacrifice, surrounded by the smoking ruins of her choices. At last, I spoke, my tone as cold as the wind seeping through the cracked window nearby. You don't miss me, I said. You miss the man who would have walked through this fire for you. He's gone now. You killed him. The sob that came through the phone was real. Unfiltered pain. But it didn't reach me. It never could. Without another word, I ended the call. There would be no reconciliation, no redemption, no do-overs. I stood at the window, the city lights melting into streaks behind eyes that refused to cry. All I felt was a quiet, frozen calm. I never answered when she called again, or the time after that. I left her to drown in the same silence she once handed me like a sentence. Somewhere behind me, her world collapsed into flames, and I watched from the distance, untouched, unshaken. I had buried that chapter long ago, and I would never dig it up again.